How's it going, everybody? This is Big Fat Ghost Vinyl. This is my new channel I decided to start up today, just because I'm excited to talk about some records and some classic rock, whether it's progressive rock, fusion, jazz, to rap, to pop, to everything. So I have quite the record collection, and I'm just excited to talk about some records with you all. So thanks for tuning in. And I figured for my debut, I might as well go with one of my favorite groups, perhaps my favorite trio of all time's debut. That being Emerson, Lake and Palmer's debut from 1970. Now let me tell you something about Emerson, Lake and Palmer. What they might lack in substantial catalog, they very much make up for in virtuosity. And I think that is definitely Emerson, Lake and Palmer's main claim to fame. I would say they're a power trio. They're one of the first supergroups of rock history. Of course, that being Keith Emerson of The Nice, Carl Palmer of Atomic Rooster, and Greg Lake, of course, famously from King Crimson. Now, these three made some of my favorite progressive rock albums of the early 70s, and this album itself is no exception. It's certified gold in the UK and US, over 500,000 copies, produced by Greg Lake himself, a man with the golden voice, which I'll be getting into some other, facets of the album itself. Right, so I just have some general notes. We have album was released 20th this November 1970, which, it's right at home there with 1970 with, some of the greatest progressive rock albums of all time released in that year. Maybe in that 5-year period, of course, is the golden age of progressive rock. And I love progressive rock, if you haven't figured by now. You can just tell by the 3 albums behind me. But I think this album is certainly actually one of their best albums. I think in the case of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they had something to prove. I mean, you have 3 excellent musicians leaving their bands that were doing successful. I mean, King Crimson had dropped the perennial Court of the Crimson King just the year before, and that album itself is a masterpiece. So Greg Lake, one foot out the door after Waking Poseidon, and basically just got together with Keith Emerson and Carl Palmer to decided to let's do our own thing. And thank God they did. Let me say that, because these 3 albums behind me, including the one I'm reviewing today, are excellent. Besides that, I will say, as my point earlier, consistency-wise, they do drop off after those 4. Maybe you could say Pictures of Exhibition. It's great, but that's more of a cover album, right? So what I want to do is I really just want to go through the track listing and give my own thoughts and opinions on some of these tracks. Of course, we start with The Barbarian. Like I said before, they are hitting the ground running here. This song is an excellent instrumental. The bombast and the organ sound here are ever present. It's very much a classical fusion of sounds that ELP would for sure become known for. And you go no further than the first song to hear what this band is all about. Then we move on to Take a Pebble. And let me tell you something about this song. I could probably say this is in their top 5 songs, period, out of their entire discography. Something about it, it's the dreary atmosphere, it's the somber tone, and it's the excellence of obviously Emerson, but the voice of Lake here is just phenomenal. I think Greg Lake really had that peak period. Maybe you could even say on this album, but I think maybe a lot of people would probably say Trilogy or honestly, I'd say Tarkus title track. His voice is just off the charts. Easily one of my favorite vocalists in all of rock history. Like I said, he has the golden voice, and everything he touches, I think, is awesome. Rest in peace, him and Emerson as well. So Take a Pebble is a 12-minute masterpiece of folk, classical, country composition. It blends, honestly, I think those three genres extremely well to a composition that is gives the full scope of virtuosity of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And that's why I think in total this album it truly is one of their better albums. From the start, they had something to prove, and they delivered. So if you're familiar with this band, you may be aware that Emerson, you can't have Emerson, Lake and Palmer without Keith Emerson, and I think you can see that very much on the display within this album. Take a Pebble, like I said, 12-minute song. It goes through a whole range of sounds. It gets quiet, beautiful bass tones by Lake in those moments, and of course it comes back crescendoing with a beautiful last verse by Lake. And I think you really just have to listen to this song in silence. You have to be not distracted. Maybe you're falling asleep. You put this song on, and you're going to understand why people love this band. Moving on from Take a Pebble, we have Knife Edge. Now this song, shoe in for one of the best deep cuts on any Emerson, Lake and Palmer album. Opens up with that incredible bass line by Greg. And here's the thing about this song. Sure, it's a deep cut, but are there really any deep cuts on this album? Let's be honest, it's 6 just great progressive rock tunes. And I think Knife Edge is probably a more commercial song, right? I mean, we'll get there with Lucky Man, but Knife Edge is definitely one of the songs that is just, anytime you're feeling, just throw on some ELP, Knife Edge. Knife Edge, Knife Edge, Knife Edge. Definite influences from, famous composers within the album. I have here that this song in particular has Bach influence, which is awesome. Who's surprised? It's, Keith Emerson. So that concludes side 1. So you got 3 great songs. Opens with Barbarian, Take a Pebble, Masterpiece, and Knife Edge. Great deep cut. You flip the album, and it's time for some virtuosity and some gothic organ sound. This song, The Three Fates, I think it's Apropos. I always, let me use this. Clotho, Laxius, and Atropos. It's awesome. This song may be challenging to the uninitiated, but if you give it a minute, 5 minutes in fact, I think the best part of this whole album is about 5 minutes into the song. Incredible synergy between the three guys at 5 minutes. Probably my favorite part of the whole album. Does it beat Take a Pebble? Probably not. That's going to be my number 1 track for sure. But this song, as a composition-wise, is genius, and it's definitely a close second or third. So, pays to listen to that song. Let me tell you, it might be challenging at first. You're like, here, what is this? What is this? Dracula? What is this? This is gothic. It's angry sounding. Pays to listen, right? Could surmise progressive rock with that one quote there, couldn't you? So, after we have the Three Fates, we go straight into Tank. Now, Tank is where Carl Palmer gets his chops going, and I think Tank's awesome. No complaints with Tank. I mean, we see right behind me on my left shoulder, my right, what Tank would likely become in the following year, that being Tarkus. But as a preliminary, rudimentary track, Tank is awesome. Maybe the best instrumental on the album. Of course, besides Three Fates. So here we really got about 4 instrumentals and about 2 songs, 2 commercialized songs, and that's really what this album's really made of. I mean, they knew what they wanted to do and they did it. I mean, it's excellent. What can I say about this album? So yeah, Tank gets it going. A great synergy between Palmer and Emerson, and of course that climaxes with a great keyboard solo. And I'd have to say Tank is probably my favorite Carl Palmer showing, maybe besides Trilogy title track. But I mean, it's just great, right? And you see later on the Works Volume 1 that Carl Palmer revisited this song again. So, and then of course we finally get to the radio staple commercial hit written by Greg when he was 12 years old, apparently. Lucky Man. Now let me tell you, in terms of Greg Lake ballads, you can't go wrong. I mean, this song is awesome. It's catchy. It's the somberness and tone of Lake's voice in the song and showcases just why he's incredible, and it really rounds out the album. And I think this album would be lesser without it. But honestly, after knowing this album for a while, I will say it is probably one of the lesser tracks in my opinion, just because I think there's other ballads I like more. I would take From the Beginning and Still You Turn Me On over Lucky Man, but it's still great. So what can I say about this album that hasn't been said already? I mean, I think in terms of debuts, it is probably the best progressive rock debut. Probably besides Core of the Crimson King. I think that would have to be the shoe-in. But this is close behind. It basically showcased the 3 guys' talents as well as they could have, and I think, to be honest, it's likely in the top 3 Emerson, Lake and Palmer albums. Some people might say it's the best one. I might do that video eventually, but I have to say I think there are other albums that are just more genius. Brain Salad Surgery. Just frankly, I think that album is incredible. But we're not talking about that one. We're talking about the debut. And I'd have to say that if we're scaling this, if we're going to rank it, I'm going to give this album an 8.3 out of 10. I think it's edging perfection. It's not there. I don't think this album is a masterpiece, I'm going to be honest. It's close. It's very close. If you're asking me what more does it need, I think, honestly, more synergy. More moments like 5 minutes in to the Three Fates. Moments that remind you of Trilogy, like later songs they would mold together. That really gave us what we love about this band, and that is these 3 guys playing together. Because you get that vibe from ELP that these guys were kind of just bros. They were kind of just chillers. And what's not to love about that? They were on top of the world in the early 70s. I mean, these guys were huge. And of course, this album came out, and they were there to stay until, Works Volume 1 and Love Beach, and maybe I'll get to those eventually. But yeah, I would say definitely a pickup if you see this album. For sure, give it a listen. And I hope you enjoyed it. I know you will if you're watching this video. Besides that, I'd like to thank you for watching my review of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's debut. I'm excited to start making content on YouTube, and this has been an enjoyable experience thus far, and look forward to more progressive rock, classic rock, jazz fusion, all of the sort. So yeah, once again, my name is Mike, by the way. Excited to be here, and excited to make some videos for you all. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.